The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
We're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Minnesota Soccer Podcast. We're back again, one more week. Another road loss survived for everyone. I am David Naylor, as you know. I'm joined back up north by Tom Schreier and Nicholas Hallett. Nick, what did you get for food before this podcast? What is your fuel?
Oh, I love this question.
My new favorite place, which I think we've referenced on the podcast. I think Naylor's mentioning them so that we can maybe get a sponsorship. But the one of the newest dining establishments in the Minneapolis area, known as The Cove. This is a place where you can get a Chipotle-esque a la carte scene, but instead you're provided with Asian and sushi-like content. It's fantastic.
That's right. Yeah, you told me about this place, the Sushi Bowl place.
Oh, it's the best. So good. No parking, but really good.
It's right by It's right by the lot though. There, right? I'm thinking about
but
it, right?
who uses parking lots?
Nick just parks in the middle of the street.
I literally did. I parked in the.
No, I know you do that there, which is the riskiest.
With my emergency blinkers on.
Yeah, that's such a Nic Hallett move.
That's a strong move.
Also, how long does it take?
People had to go around me. It was really fun.
Yeah, and this, like, Naylor, if you can picture this is like in a very tight location. Like, very, very terrible thing to do. God damn it. How long did it take to get that food? Like, how long were your blinkers on?
9 minutes.
Naylor.
I don't know what you want me to do about it. Nick's out here making his choices, and the people are going to come for him at some point.
Naylor, do you want to explain where you are and if it's a place that you can leave your blinkers on for 9 minutes and not get towed?
Well, like, I'm assuming I could leave my blinkers on outside of my house for 9 minutes and not get towed because no one would really care. But, like, I don't know. I don't think that would fly in Iowa, partially because, I mean, I live in Des Moines, which is the largest city in Iowa, as most people know. But there are still enough people with trucks that are significantly larger than my car that if somebody wanted to move my car, they could just do it themselves.
Oh, they just plow it over?
Yeah, like, or just hook up a hitch to it and just drag it off to somewhere else. I don't know if I would play that game. We also have enough parking down here. It's nice.
Yeah,
Dinkytown does not. It does not.
Yeah.
Dinkytown is terrible for parking. It's atrocious. Yeah. Tom, what was your food fuel for today? What did you have that was notable?
Some food? You want me to start some
No.
What did he ask?
Tom, are you deaf?
Food.
Oh, food. I had
the topic of conversation, food.
I thought you wanted me to start a controversy. Hey, we're with Hot Take Hallett here, anything goes. No, I had some grilled chicken. I went to the homestead, ate a little chicken, a little couscous. A little broccoli. It was a good, wholesome meal.
Wow.
There you go. I had some leftover fried rice, and that's what's got me up and ready to go.
What's happened to this podcast?
Yeah, let's talk about soccer.
Should we start over?
Do we want to talk about soccer? Actually, yes, we do want to talk about soccer because I woke up this morning to a DM in our Slack channel for Zone Coverage. I'm going to share this content because I feel like it's important content for the podcast. In regards to Nic Hallett's recap of Minnesota United's 2-0 loss at Sporting Kansas City last night, the phrase takedown of Adrian Heath was used.
Yeah, Sam Ekstrom, who he covers the Vikings for us, edited this your article, as he does many articles at Zone Coverage. Yeah, was excited. So got Sam Ekstrom going.
Yeah, which is not easy to do.
No, he's a pretty stoked man.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was more reaction than I expected.
Oh, he was so Nick, excited.
Of the takedown of Adrian Heath, the floor is yours. Go at Adrian Heath.
Well, honestly, I wrote that for so many people who maybe didn't have time, and weren't smart enough to be listening to the Minnesota Soccer Podcast in the first place, because a lot of what was written there is stuff that we had begun to discuss last week as problems, and were issues in the FC Dallas game. And really, my writing was just having witnessed the Sporting Kansas City debacle was just confirmation that Heath continuing to make odd decisions and, in my opinion, just frank mistakes and poor decisions all around. And my biggest problem is that he's not setting the team up for success. I think what he's doing in some of the decisions he's making is actually crippling them further, putting them behind the 8 ball even further. And that says a lot for a team that's pretty far away from the playoff picture, is new to the MLS, and has always struggled to get wins. So if you're going to shorthand your team each and every match, especially on the road, especially when on the road you lead the MLS in defeats, I'm just flabbergasted by that, and it doesn't make any sense.
So all of that is fair, but at the same time, none of that is new to us, or I think to many fans of Minnesota United, right? Like, there have been people calling from Adrian Heath's head since April, if not last year. Like, none of this is new. So, thinking about this week specifically, I'll turn it not on Adrian Heath. You have Sporting Kansas City on the road, sort of kind of rivalry game, MLS's rivalry week, even though it's been a very, very one-sided rivalry, especially at Kansas City.
Right.
You have no Darwin Quintero, and you have basically your full complement of players other than that. What starting 11 would you have put out in this game?
That is a great question. I would have found a way to get Abu Danladi into the starting lineup. I know that's so crazy. I would find a way to get Romario Ibarra into the lineup. Somewhere where we disagree, I would potentially sit Miguel Ibarra, personally. And I would certainly bench Ibsen. Even though I would say he was one of the better performers.
I was about to say, you actually specifically called him out as one of the better players last night.
And he was.
So I find that's interesting.
And he was, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't infringe on the team's overall success at times. I know that does sound contradictory, but I think those things can be mutually exclusive.
I respect that.
Yeah. Because obviously he does have a lot of talent.
I think what you're identifying here, too, is when you do your analysis, it is process-based rather than just results.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's what would you have set up before the game?
Yes, also true. Yeah, exactly, and that's a good point. That's the question, too, is prior to the game, what would I have done? And so again, one of my biggest problems with Heath, and I said this last week, and it just, him doing these things again this week just made it just compounded it. And one of the biggest problem is that he's trying to lean into his defense when he doesn't have a formidable defense. When he has a defense that is especially prone to giving up goals, and so to lean into that or try to rely on that extensively doesn't make it's just confusing, especially when continuously you get poor result after poor result after poor result. So for me, I would have tried something different because we see all these road games. They're 1-11-1 on the road. They lead the league in road losses. And so why not do something bold? Why not do something extravagantly different? And so if I was him, I would play a back four. I wouldn't even use this, but I would want to put. Well, I'm going to go full. I would go back four. I would start Thiessen because he's definitely one of the best outside backs, if possible. I don't know what his match fitness is at this very moment, but
assuming he was, because he went 60, so assuming he was fit enough to go 90,
yeah,
we can work with that.
Yeah, so I'd start Thiessen. I'd start Tyrone Mears. So Thiessen would be on the left. I'd play Boxall and Coleman at center back. I'd play Calvo at defensive mid. I would have switched the formation to a 4-3-1-2.
4-3-1-2. Okay.
And then so Cal will be in the middle of the three as the defensive midfielder. Schuller. Actually, let me change that. I would play a 4-2-3-1. Schuller and Calvo, the defensive mids, and one of them, and this is important, one of them instructed to push forward in the attack. Heath, when he plays two defensive mids, they are not instructed to push forward very often or at all. And so we would play two defensive mids, but Calvo or Schuller, situation permitting, side of the field the ball's on, etc., one of them should be pushing forward into the attack consistently. So I think that instruction is important. I would play Romario Ibarra on the left. I would play Abu Danladi on the right. And I would play... give me some attack. Who am I missing? Who am I attacking? I'm thinking Pangop, but I'm trying to think if I'm missing anyone. I would start Angelo up top.
Angelo up top for sure, but then... Because that's the problem, right? Is who do you put in there that's not Miguel? You can put Miguel in there, but that's probably not his best position.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm trusting. I'm trusting. Basically, here's what I do. I put Pang up, and again, and I think this is important. Instructions to the three attackers that they float, and they find out, make different runs and not be so predictable in their positioning. So maybe we start Romario Ibarra on the left, Abu on the right, Pang up in the center. And then the instruction are, you three are interchangeable. Pop up at different points. If you make a run to the right side, Pang up, stay on the right side, Abu will come in your place. Abu, join Angelo up top, and make a run up. We've got Calvo or Schuller moving up as well. Allow these guys more freedom positionally and more freedom to be dynamic in their movement and be unpredictable in their movement. And by the not only by the instructions I've given, but by the personnel I've listed, we are much more of an attacking threat. We have more options as a whole and just more attackers on the field. So now we're really pushing for a result. And when we're in possession offensively, up the field or in transition, we are really giving our offense a full-blooded chance to do something rather than just playing a few offensive guys and then sitting deep and hoping that the 4-on-7 works out. I don't understand that, and I think the way that the Sporting Kansas City game ended yesterday only validates my point further, because that's when United looked their best, was after they had gone down 2 and had no other choice but to push forward and try to get something from the game. That's when United created a bunch of good chances. Funny how that works. When you actually allow your offense to try, when you actually give your offense numbers going forward. And
it seems like the line between losing 2-0 and losing 5-3 to some extent, but because there's no guarantee that they get a result at all from this game if they push forward, because there is the chance they get caught out defensively moving forward. But at the same time, you're trying, right? There was an attempt. Because that's been the thing with each of these last two games, is there just hasn't looked like anything coming up for the offense. Angelo Rodriguez has been completely frozen out of being able to do anything useful because he's had no support from the midfield.
Yep.
There's just a void behind him.
Yep.
And the one asterisk I will make, Ty Mears was not in the 18 last night. I believe he's hurt again. So you probably have Eric Miller coming in.
Sure.
So...
Right.
Yeah, the switch that provides, but yeah,
I would even and I would even consider playing Miguel there. Actually, in a 4-back, he's played enough wing back this year. I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice, but that would be a consideration.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a consideration. I would lean towards playing Miguel in the attacking 3 over Pangop, but I wouldn't feel particularly good about it.
And even then, like, then that's fine. It doesn't change the point very much of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could still do that. And it's still the same idea of, like, get these other guys on the field and give your team a different look, give your team a different chance in terms of going forward.
Yeah, it just, like, it doesn't seem, especially in that defensive midfield setting, whether, like, Ibsen doing his best to move forward last night was important for the team in the early going because he was the only outlet for part of the game. But, like, it's always been unreliable. Like, we know this. It's Ibsen. This is what he does. Like, he can get you stuff done, but sometimes things can go horribly wrong. And if he gets caught out, things don't tend to go in Minnesota's favor. So having something more solid like a Schuler-Calvo duo, having Calvo have the license to go forward, if that were a long-term partnership where the two of them got comfortable playing together and you could have sort of a pivot where one goes forward, one stays back, and then the other one might be the next one to go forward depending on the situation, seems like you've got some decent tools there if you use them in that situation.
Yeah, but he won't.
He won't. Like,
he's clearly never going to use Calvo in the midfield. That is apparent at this point. And the signing of Fernando Bob midweek is, just further proof.
Well, and that's kind of the point that I wanted to make with the lineup construction thing, is we know Adrian Heath's constant complaints about the transfer window. We've heard them after nearly every game, every time. He's always asking for more. He asks for more signings, he asks for more things. They bring in Fernando Bob this week. Cool, a defensive midfielder, great. But, like, the question that I think is going to be asked, not necessarily, it's been asked plenty by fans. The question that should be asked by the ownership group is, are these players that Minnesota's been investing in the correct use of the funds? And not necessarily is the result on Adrian Heath completely, but you have to question somewhat the pieces that he's been given. I think that that's still very fair to do, which is why, like, if there's going to be heads rolling in positions of importance in the team going forward to the end of the season, you feel like Heath's might not be the first one to go. At least I do.
Feel like his position isn't the first to go?
I feel like Adrian's position might not be the first one to get chopped. Either that or they clean out the entire thing at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the place that discussion begins is if you're pontificating that we're in the similar situation this time next year, or a little earlier, like, because I'm operating under the assumption everything I've heard from United otherwise seems to back this up, is that basically Heath's going to be given a third year no matter what, and it's because it's when they move into the new stadium, and basically that'll be his real test. Is his real litmus test will be where are they at halfway through the third year. I've added everything I've heard is that he'll for sure get next year, and I'm adding the caveat that I essentially believe that he'll be given half a year. If they're in the same position in the standings and looking, I mean, geez, if they look like this with a full set of guys, including Darwin, even a third away through next season, then I think he's. I
think he enters the season on the hot seat. Like,
I think he enters it on a warm-ish seat. But I mean, if they start, there's 33 MLS games, 35. Yeah. If they start, 7-5 and they're 4-0 at home, like, I mean, they're going to be going. Like, he's going to be given the other main reason he's going to be given next year is because he's going to have guys like Finley and Molino back. He's got this Bob guy will have had a whole offseason. Who knows what he is? I mean, you'd like to be excited about him, but Maximiano, didn't actually do anything. But let's say, Bob's going to have a whole offseason and assembling into the side, and all these other guys who've been brought in lately, like Romario and Angelo and Darwin, they'll all have a full offseason under their belts. With Heath, he'll have a full offseason to get his system clearly in place, so you're not switching to a 5-3-2 halfway through the season or what have you. Hope at least 2 backup, like 1 main formation and a backup formation to switch tactics. So all those things will be in effect. They'll be opening a new stadium. There'll be so much fanfare for that. Those first 15 games, he's going to be judged on that. If he does decent enough, and they're even if they're just barely in 6th, I think he's going to retain it the whole year. But if they're looking anywhere near this, then he'll be out.
If they were wavering on him at all, he would not make it through this road trip, right? I mean, you'd probably cut bait, and if he coaches throughout this season, they're probably rolling into next season with him.
Yeah. Oh, I think they for sure are.
Yeah.
They for sure are.
Do you think Manny Lagos' job is just as safe?
That's a really good question. My gut tells me that Manny will survive a first coach, but if he and a second coach fail, then that's when Manny's on his way.
He also didn't. Finley's injured, Molino's in. There's a lot of talent that is benched, right? I mean, he in some ways.
Yeah.
How accountable does he have to be for that?
Well, and the last 2 games, they've been putrid, and I've pointed out all these different problems they have, but he was also missing Darwin Quintero, his best player by a mile. So if there is some salt to have with my hot take, and that's it, is Darwin hasn't been playing.
Well, but at the same point, you've got to try something. And you don't have Darwin. That was abundantly clear.
Exactly.
He didn't play last week.
Exactly.
You've got to do something different.
Exactly. And all these road losses, even with Darwin, have looked like this. They've all looked like this, just inevitable. Minimal fight back, minimal punch back. And again, last night only underscores that, in my opinion, because after the game, Heath's his quote was, in some losses, you're happy with the effort that you got. You're happy with the way that your team played, regardless of losing. And he said, this is one of those games. Because they fought so hard at the end and created so many chances at the end because they pushed forward. But he's not been allowing them to push forward from the start. Well, so if you liked what you saw, why wouldn't you let them do that from the beginning?
And didn't we talk just last week about him making the important substitutions immediately after giving up goals?
Which, again, is too late.
Didn't we just have that discussion?
Yeah.
This is not new. The fact that we have I look at Nick's player ratings from last night. You have 3 of your highest ratings are the 3 substitutes. I don't know. You can question match fitness with Tieson for sure, but with Danladi and Romario, you gotta expect that they can go 90 at this point.
Yeah. Romario's
especially if Danladi is you imagine a part of the Christian Ramirez trade that will continue to loom over this franchise into next season is that is on Danladi and Toy, not small parts, to come through on their potential.
Yeah, and Danladi looked like the best player on the team for lots of the second half once he was on. But he had to get on the field to do that, and he's not on the field very much. And I'm pretty sure Heath's come out and said that the reason they traded Ramirez was Danladi. So, and I get it, Danladi is very fragile. That is a fact, but I mean, what are you going to do? Do this his whole career? Only play him as a sub? You can't. You got to get him. He's got to become a regular on the field.
There's no upside to being a super sub. If you're a career super sub, you better be the best super sub that ever played.
Seriously, the kid's freaking 24, 23. He's got to become a regular on the field. And so I mean, in Romario's been in the team for a month. How is he not fully match fit? That's seemingly impossible.
Well, and now, the good news is we don't have to worry about the playoff race anymore because that's dead.
Definitely.
Which means that we can return to kind of the original hypothesis of the season, which was talent evaluation, right? Like, that's kind of what we talked about in May and the beginning of June before the big homestand winning streak started in July. It's like, this season's about talent evaluation. The season's about who's going to be around next year, because next year's the year that actually matters, which for Heath, for Lagos, for the entire team, for the ownership group, like, next season is the season that you better follow through. Like, because they've got to be good next year. Now you go back to that full time, and if we talk about match fitness, it is a shame that this next game, which is now not for 2.5 weeks, they've got some time off to get people fit, to get people ready. You probably think Darwin plays in that game. You think you might have a Fernando Bob to add to your team if all of his paperwork goes through. You think you might be able to start Romario. You might be able to start TSM. Like, you've got more tools. Oh, wait, your entire back line is suspended. Because that's the question. Like, we're going to end up talking about this over the next couple of weeks since there's some time off, but, like, Wyatt Omsberg is going to have a really important game in all likelihood, because no Calvo and no Boxall means there aren't many alternatives with how you're lining up your back line
in
DC against a DC United team that has been absolutely phenomenal at home since their new stadium opened, with a certain Wayne Rooney playing for them.
Right. And Eric Miller just went off with injury in this weekend's match. So, and he's a potential center back. So like, you gotta hope that you got some dudes getting healthy. I know Calvo is taking his time off now, and he suspects a lot of these guys are gonna just try and go get a mental reset on, which seems like what they might need at this point. But, like, it's just, I have no idea how they're gonna set this up. And in this game where maybe you can actually try and put up a fight, now because of suspensions, there's no chance. Like, I think this next week could be the worst looking game of all of them, whether or not Darwin is back. Well, and wouldn't it be the most ideal to do all of the things I said earlier in the show to do? Because you're going to have to play, everyone's going to know you're going to have to play a really inexperienced back line. You're going to be playing Coleman and Omsberg most likely. Miller's out injured, stuff like that. Mears is probably out still. So that's going to be even more reason. And this is going to the most age. This injury situation such points to, okay, you got to field an offensive team, because you really can't rely on your defense in this game, given all this.
You don't have options.
And the most Adrian Heath thing to do will be that he'll, like, set up really defensively because of that. And it's
does he have a rep of this? Like, when he coaching elsewhere, was he known as just a defensive?
I think he's known as an offensive coach, and so I think what's happened is he's been scarred by all the goals his teams have allowed in these first year and a half.
Yeah,
and he fell in love with the 3-5-2, switch, and deservedly so to some level, because it brought the team success, but. Again, one of the themes that, an anecdote that Naylor and I point out consistently on the show is he's late to make substitutions. He makes the right change, but it's too late. And that's what I feel like is happening here. He's like, he just sticks with things too long, and it always costs his team. To me, I keep seeing it as a stubbornness. A stubbornness that is an Achilles heel for him, potentially.
Yep.
And so this next game, I think it'd be ideal to just field whatever. Everyone knows, like, if you get smashed, like, who cares? Like, you're out of the playoffs. If you get smashed, who cares? You're on the road still. You suck on the road as it is. You're the worst team in the league on the road. Do something different. You playing a rookie at center back. Just do something crazy.
Well, at this point, they have nothing to lose, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Because that's the real thing, is, like, you can argue that, if we pick up a point here or 3 points here, maybe we can sneak into the playoffs when we close with 4 or 5 at home. But now it's just like, you got nothing to lose. You're out of the playoff race, barring a complete miracle. Just play your guys. Like, play Maximiano 90 minutes. Just see what you got.
Right. You should be playing. Here's another perfect example. Who isn't getting any playing time? Harrison Heath, his son. What is he good? I don't know. Like, we saw him a few games and
he's barely been in the 18. He's not been close. That's
what I'm saying though. But like, if he doesn't giving his son even a chance, like what chance does anyone else have? I don't understand what he wants. And I mean, if he can't even get his son in the 18, why is he here? Like, if guys can't get in the 18 regular, they shouldn't be around. I mean, Harrison was on Atlanta United at one point. I gotta think he's got something. You should be cycling guys in and out to see what you have. That's what you do when you have a bad team.
Yeah, this is the time of the year to do it.
Yes.
Do players develop better in an offensive system? Like as in strictly for a player development standpoint, should you or do you feel like it doesn't matter?
It depends. I mean, it obviously depends on position. You know.
Dude, how about this? The players with the most upside with United, should they be in an offensive system?
I definitely think so.
Yes. All of their best players are offensive players.
Yeah.
When I was thinking through that, like
all their highest upside players are definitely offensive.
True.
Players.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like when healthy, you start taking them off, right? Quintero, Molino, Finley. I mean, help me out here, but like Danladi. Like, you go down the line, any player that's like a name brand player, and maybe that's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it seems to be an offensive guy that should be able to
it's
score.
Guys who score goals get their names in the paper.
Yeah.
Like,
it just seems like you have a few of them. Yeah.
Well, and it returns to the fact that maybe it's not the high-profile thing to invest in your back line, but maybe the fact that your best-looking defender consistently for basically the entire season is the one of your three center backs who started the season on the bench, who's been with your team the longest, and is the only one who won't be suspended for next week on yellow card accumulation. Brett Coleman, he's really good, but, like, you need something better.
Well, and again, look at Coleman's now a regular starter because he was thrust into it. Heath didn't I'm seeing him doing great at training, I'm going to make him a starter. And, what a great decision that was. Like, he was kind of thrust into making Coleman a starter.
Yep.
And it's like, so again, pointing back to that stubbornness of, like, I don't understand. I don't know. The hardest part is because I can't empathize with where it's coming from, like why he sticks to things a certain way, but you got to try, guys. What role, let's say he keeps going the same way, and Romero Barra subs on for 15 minutes every game. What role do we, or like with Pangop, who has looked pretty decent at times, what role do they play next year? You don't know if you never play them, and you don't see what their potential is, where they're good, where they're not good. Oh, Pangop would be good from the start because of this. Romero is a good sub because of this. How do we know if you don't give those guys different opportunities like that? Like
the argument you see for this, at least I know in the NBA, and I think sometimes in baseball too, is you'll have your veteran guys who you'll shut down for the year with 20 games to go on a bad team. It seems to me like there could be an argument for shutting Ibsen down for the rest of the year, if you're thinking in that kind of mindset. Because, you know exactly what Ibsen brings to your team. We've seen it. We know it. If he's here next year, cool. We know what he got. If he's not, okay.
Exactly.
You got to see the other dudes you've got in that position. It's nothing about Ibsen at this point. It's the fact that you need to see what else is in that spot.
Precisely. And Ibsen's a great example because, as you say, we know exactly what he brings. And he's the oldest guy on the team, him and Mir, so why not give him the rest? And allow...
you just got to mess with stuff. Colin Martin hasn't been getting minutes, is another midfield piece that you can try, that you can see what you got. You've got these midfield guys that anywhere in your system, you can try all these guys out, and we just haven't seen it. Martin's played like 5-ish games this season, it feels like. And Maximiano's played like 5 or 6 games this season. Injuries, not injuries. Like, you just got to give these guys some time on the pitch. Like, we talk about, like, the guys going out to USL teams to get pitch time. Same thing's true for the guys who's in your 18 every week and never starting.
Yeah, and I guess let's give him let's do this and be fair for sure, and like give him some credit, because the one thing that ran against my argument that I wrote about as we discussed and as we're talking about throughout this episode is that he did start Mason Toye, and so
yep.
I'll give him credit for that. Fair enough, and it did kind of ultimately backfire, but frankly, don't you feel like, separate from the team losing, is Minnesota United, because of Mason Toye's further experience, are they not a slightly better roster for that? They're a slightly better situation because Mason, again, has more MLS minutes under his belt and more experience. They just are because of that. And that's the type of thing you can build on right now when your team's not being successful in the standings.
Yeah, it's just the awkward thing of, like, you signed Angelo, so Angelo needs to play. You play all 3 of them. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Or just
do it. Just play 3 strikers. Whatever.
Yeah. Do crazy stuff.
Yeah, do crazy stuff. Why not? Just play every offensive-minded player you have in your front 6 next week. Just roll with it.
It'd be really funny if they won 4-0 if they did that.
I don't think they're going to do that. Wayne Rooney is still really good, apparently.
He's all right.
I love Wayne Rooney. like just in the MLS. Like, as someone who really doesn't have a lot of context for how good he is, other than knowing that he's a good player, some of the crazy stuff he's done is great.
Well, and it's one of those things where it feels like there have been, particularly English players who have come to the MLS before, who have just kind of showed up, gotten their paychecks, and checked out, like the Gerrards and Lampards. Rooney is out here, like, his biggest highlight play, that defensive stop into the cross for the goal in the 95th minute for DC a couple of weeks ago. He's working his butt off, like, doing things you don't expect a guy his age to do on the soccer field, and is no small part of DC turning it around and getting themselves into a playoff race.
Yeah, no, that play was stunning.
It was unbelievable. Like,
probably, yeah, play of the year, I'd say. Honestly, in the league.
I could see that. There's probably some highlights I'm forgetting about, but it's up there.
It's certainly up there.
Zlatan's first goal was fine.
That was sick. Rooney's play is play of the year, though, because it's so sick, but it's very unique. It's got two pieces in it: a defending and hustle piece, and a touch of class with the service. So,
yep.
Have him and Zlatan played?
Yeah, they played. Actually, they
never together.
No, they just missed playing together. Actually,
No,
Yep.
played against each other. Like in the MLS.
Oh yeah.
in the MLS.
Yeah.
I don't know if they played.
Oh, not yet. I don't think.
Because could that be cool? Like them just trying to show each other up?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom's the only non-Minnesota United MLS game Tom's going to watch this year. DC, LA.
I watched part of the New York Red Bulls New York City game. However, I did not see much.
That's 2 really good teams.
Yeah, no, I caught a little bit, but again, I don't know enough about the teams I could really appreciate it.
Well, the 2 New York teams are probably the 2nd and 3rd best teams in the league.
Yeah.
They're real good.
They are. That's true.
Since we're kind of moving our way out and around the rest of the MLS, a shout out to Josef Martinez, who did break the MLS goal scoring record in the game against Orlando City this past week, and is now the only player in MLS history to score 28 goals in a season, and they still have 8 games to go.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you think he's in the MLS next year?
I think Orlando spends everything they can possibly spend to keep. Oh, not Orlando. I think Atlanta spends everything they can possibly spend to keep him. Like, because he was in Europe before. He played in Italy before he came over to Atlanta and was played out of position. Wasn't that good, and so it just seems like he's found the spot that just works for him.
It's actually that's the right argument for him staying. And he could pull a Giovinco, and come here, kill it, and just keep staying here. He's a bit younger than Giovinco, though, was and is currently. I don't know. I see him leaving. That's just what I see.
Well, but it's like,
especially because every single team could always use a good finisher. Every single team. You might be a sick defensive.
He's already the best single-season goal scorer in MLS history. He's playing for the best team in the league. If they win MLS Cup this year and they're then have a Champions League run to make, why are you going anywhere? You're on top right now.
Yeah, but you're playing in a lesser league. I just think that I could see him signing for a Premier League team.
I could see Premier League teams looking. I'm not sure I have a feeling Atlanta's going to try really, really hard not to sell him. But
if they get a good fee, I mean, right now the MLS. Think about this: the MLS record for a transfer fee is like $20 million, and that was the Alphonso Davies from
Yep.
From is it Vancouver?
Vancouver.
Yeah, and I knew it was one of the Canadian teams. So that's the highest. I think potentially Atlanta could get upwards of 40 or 50 for Joseph. Honestly, so I think that's about. I mean, 50 might be on the high end, but it's they could definitely. They could quote someone that, and it would
on this offseason. Like when the Premier League January transfer window opens, see what the rumors say.
Yeah, and that's an interesting time for it too. But yeah, I could. Yeah. I don't know. I picture him leaving. I think you can be a sick defensive player, a sick midfielder, and there can be. It's hard to maybe fit you into a good team that's already kind of set up. Any team could use a good finisher. Think of any good team that has a good, like Tottenham. They have one of the best records in the world. You're telling me that Joseph Martinez wouldn't potentially be a really good option off the bench for them late in games?
Is this where I say like LAFC trading for Christian Ramirez?
What do you mean?
Who's a great finisher playing for a good team?
God, no.
I don't even know what range of emotions Tom's feeling there.
I was just shot, actually.
You're shot in a 50s movie.
I just feel like, I mean, if we're going to talk about putting a great finisher in a good team and then just getting the buckets,
yeah, except
there's a name that could be brought up there that may.
All right, you got your shot in.
Raise some strong feelings for Minnesota United fans.
All right. Got your shot in.
Yeah, no. The other MLS thing, I'm actually just seeing this roll through my Twitter timeline as we've been recording. Jeff Ruder of The Athletic got a tweet and responded to it about here's your strong cross-sport reference for the day. If the Columbus Crew's move to Austin happens, which it looks like it's going to at this point, a lot of the hoops have been jumped through. Minnesota United might be in line to move to the Eastern Conference.
Which weirdly is what Timberwolves fans have wanted for years.
And, well, it's the point that Jeff makes is you play your geographic rival games like they did this weekend. Might be a little bit easier to play Chicago 3 times a year.
Which really
and not
should happen.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
It's way more likely.
The Fire are not good.
Yeah, well, the other thing is way more likely that you'd actually have a Chicago rivalry, right, than a Kansas City one.
Well, and it's every local rivalry point you make about the Timberwolves you can make here. Like having a local rivalry against the Chicago team would be great for Minneapolis. Like,
I just want to point this out. I think that move. I guess they're planning on putting a team in Cincinnati, right?
Yep, Cincinnati's for sure.
The weird thing about that is Columbus supposedly should unite Cleveland and Cincinnati, although it doesn't seem that to be happening. But just looking real quick, Columbus is the 32nd TV market in the U.S., so supposedly right outside of where you'd put a pro team. Yep. Austin is the 49th. That's like on Oklahoma City is 45. Albuquerque's bigger. Vegas is bigger. Birmingham is 40 is bigger. Like, that's a weird place to put. I know that it's
That
like
is
a college
interesting.
town, and but yeah, that's a weird place.
Where does Portland rank on that?
Portland's 22, right between St. Louis and Pittsburgh, so that's reasonable.
Okay.
Indianapolis is 25. Behind it is Louisville, Buffalo, which is kind of interesting because they have pro teams, but Providence, New Orleans. I mean, it's not, Fresno is 55. And I know that there's more than the TV market size that goes into it, and it's college town and, warm weather, all that. It's just, that is an interesting move. It's a little like moving Seattle to Oklahoma City that you're like, in the short term it worked, in the long term you're like, yeah, I don't know if that was smart.
Well, and the other thought is which teams / markets look like they're most up for the next round of MLS expansion that hasn't been announced, because you've got Miami and Cincinnati, both as things
Which
that
makes
are coming
sense.
in, I think, in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So the next group of cities, as I'm reading from Jeff's tweet here, Phoenix and Sacramento both seem like front runners, and San Diego seems like it's in MLS's ideas too.
Yeah, and all those cities. I mean, Sacramento seems a little small, but they have basketball. I don't know. I just think that's interesting. That may be a little bit of a short-sighted move. But again, it would be the only pro team in Austin.
Well, and it's not, the Columbus move is not just short-sighted for that. It's the fact that the Columbus Stadium was the home of one of the most iconic U.S. men's national team games in the last 20 years with the Dos Aceto game.
And clearly they didn't keep it up because the scoreboard catches fire, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Columbus has been a location that's had a lot of love for the national team, and they've had great fans. They've had good teams. It makes me uncomfortable to take that away, but moving any franchise like that makes me uncomfortable. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch the fallout from that continue to develop. Because, Austin is going to be a pretty heavily hated team entering the league next year, you would think, by the common fan.
Yeah.
So
That adds a little drama, though. That's kind of fun.
Hal
It
loves
is.
to be hated.
Hate me. He hate me.
Yep.
He hates me.
So
Well, so but from a Minnesota perspective, here's potentially like a huge boon for United and the Minnesota soccer scene is you mentioned that Dos Aceros happened at Columbus Crew Stadium, and the capacity for Map Free Stadium in Columbus, Ohio is 19,900.
Yep,
And
it's
that's
not a big stadium.
That is completely comparable to one Allianz Field.
Which is completely sold out, by the way. I think the season tickets are.
So potentially, when it's going to have real grass, so potentially, the U.S. men's national team gives Minneapolis / St. Paul, wherever.
That's interesting.
Is it in
Yeah.
St. Paul?
I think it's technically St. Paul, yeah.
Gives St.
But
Paul
Midway, yeah.
Midway.
gives
It's in
Midway-
the Midway neighborhood.
gives Midway, Minnesota, a look at hosting a national team
We know
game.
the Gold Cup's already coming there,
Right.
Right,
And
that's
so-
already been announced. So
Right.
there's already gonna be
Boom.
national team games there, and you'd think that that's gonna continue.
And and what's cool about that, you're right, they're going to be given a chance, and that's going to be super fun and super exciting. I mean, Minnesota fans, come out and kill it, and potentially you could make Midway, Minnesota, a homestead for the national team, potentially. That would be sick.
It'd be sweet.
How cool would that be?
It does seem like from a lot of the talk I remember at the unveiling of the Gold Cup announcement, which I was at a couple of months ago. It's one of the goals of the stadium we are going to be a home for the national team right here. And that's if you get on that list, imagine the fact that you wouldn't be able to get a World Cup game there because of capacity reasons. But if you show Minneapolis as a market that's got love for soccer, that will do all the good things for it, you wonder if US Bank Stadium could be on a venue list for the World Cup.
No. It already got X.
It already got eliminated?
Because
Okay,
it's
fine.
turf.
Maybe
Because
another
turf,
one
bro.
in the future.
Because it's turf.
Go
Can't
get
have
another
that.
World Cup. Whatever.
Can't have that turf, brother.
Yep.
Real grass.
Can't Can't build a real grass 80,000 seat stadium for Minnesota United. Sorry.
Right.
We're not Atlanta. Can't pull it off.
Can you imagine, like, already there's a different football stadium for the pro and, the Gophers teams.
Oh,
There's,
my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, there's like all these stadiums around here, and to be like, yeah, we want an 80,000 one that's not open.
That could be the problem, though. If like, what if I'm assuming Free Stadium in Columbus isn't used anymore since Columbus leaves, and they just destroy it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But what if instead they keep it and it's where all U.S. men's national team games are always played because they just can renovate
the home of the
it.
U.S. men's national team is in Columbus, Ohio. Yep.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny.
They could.
Why not?
What else are they gonna do with that stadium? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, that's enough.
That's enough of that.
MLS talk. Shall we jump across the pond and potentially make a wager, Nick?
Should we do a live recorded podcast where you and I watch the Tottenham Manchester United game together?
Tomorrow.
That would be funny.
Oh God.
That would be super funny.
I think Nick gets to live in the duplex.
I'm moving in.
If he wins.
I live in a duplex here, actually.
Yeah.
Already.
You can crash it next if anytime you want.
Yeah, if Manchester United wins, I get to move into the other side of the duplex.
Yeah.
Not feeling.
No,
What are we
I
wagering?
cannot argue for the other half of the duplex. However, I will wager a 6-pack of beer that Tottenham Hotspur will beat Manchester United tomorrow.
What if I do? Just because Manchester United puts me in a predicament of like Manchester United is my favorite team, but I don't necessarily think they're going to win. I don't know. What am I supposed
I'm
to do?
putting it out there.
Back them anyway?
You get 3 beers, Naylor, and Nick will drink the rest.
I'll bet half a 6-pack that they win.
I'll do a mini keg. Nick, bet.
Where is it at? Is it at White Hart Lane or is it at Old Trafford?
White Hart Lane isn't open yet. It's at Old Trafford.
What do you mean it's not open yet?
The stadium's not done.
Oh yeah, they're still playing at Wembley, or
They're still playing at Wembley, and it's at Old Trafford.
okay, sorry, New White Hart Lane, or what are they calling it?
New White Hart Lane, which God, I hope it's done by the end of October now.
I didn't realize it was. I forgot about that. What's going on?
Yeah, no, they announced that's been a thing. They announced the delay last week, and it has to. They got an agreement to play more of their games at Wembley, so it's not an immediate problem. The problem comes October 27th, I want to say it is. There's an NFL game at Wembley. So they can't play at Wembley, and they're supposed to have a home game against Manchester City.
Interesting.
So it better be done by then,
Apparently,
or it's going to get real interesting.
Apparently,
So
frick it. I'll do it. I'll do a 6-pack.
Mourinho, all right,
Mourinho,
6-pack on the result.
Mourinho's. I'm not a fan of his right now, but if he's good at any time, it's when his back's against the wall, and
Yep.
them losing to Brighton has his back against the wall. So United's going to pull it out, take down Spurs.
And I think that Spurs are going to continue their good season opening form and tie up with Liverpool at the top of the league. Since a certain other Manchester team did not get 3 points from their game this weekend.
Yeah, that was something. All right.
Shout out to Wolves, who got a 1-1 draw against the champions.
Yeah.
Wolves.
Wiggins.
Cat.
Yeah, all Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah. Wiggins took a lot of shots, but he missed a lot.
Well, if we want to do the Timberwolves angle real quick, since it seems like half of the NBA has been out and about watching soccer games over the last few weeks, it's been the thing to do. I know Jimmy Butler was at
PSG.
Paris Saint-Germain this weekend, watching their game, hanging out with Neymar.
That's pretty
that was
awesome.
a thing. I saw slightly less high profile, but boy, who was it? It was Larry Nance Jr. was at Newcastle today, hanging out with DeAndre Yedlin, who had an unfortunate own goal.
That's random as heck.
Yeah.
Did you find it weird? And I'd be interested to hear your perspective too, Tom. So they show. All of a sudden, I'm just on some social media, and if this video pops up in my timeline, Jimmy Butler's at the PSG game. Paris is France's biggest team, and like all these players are like dapping him up, and I'm like, do you guys know? You guys know who Jimmy Butler is?
You would be surprised how popular the best NBA players are.
Really?
Like Rose has a huge following in China. Kat has a little bit of one.
Huh?
Like, yeah.
Huh.
No, and I mean the other thing is, I do like that these NBA players get out and travel. I think they have a different people who do that have a very different perspective, and it's good for their brand, man. Like, think about that. Like, Jimmy Butler's there, and everyone's talking about it, right? You know, like, why? What else? Unless he does something stupid, like, what else is he going to do this time of year that like would get any attention?
Yeah.
Well, and he's been like doing the whole tour too. Like, I feel like he was at Barcelona last week. Like, he's been out and about around Europe going to games.
Yeah.
You guys don't find it weird that Neymar, one of the 20 biggest athletes in the world, Brazilian superstar, like
knows who Jimmy Butler
knows
is?
who Jimmy Butler is?
Jimmy Butler played in Chicago as a star. He's a star.
A star for a non-playoff team?
No.
Nick,
The
are you
good
ready
Bulls.
for me to blow your mind?
Yes.
Do it, Naylor.
So Neymar, in his spare time, is a big fan of a computer game called Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
Neymar is?
He plays a ton of the time on his own and has been associated with and played games with several of the biggest Brazilian pros in that game throughout time, because one of the best Counter-Strike teams in the world is a Brazilian team and has been for the last 2 or 3 years. And he's been like huge giving them love over the last few years because he's been very aware of them because they're in something that he's got passion for. So like the NBA is one thing, but the fact that Neymar knows about the professional Counter-Strike scene is a little more random.
Yeah, that is unexpected. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, there's my esports tie-in for the day. Check that one off.
Any other MLS news we should be talking about?
Any more Counter-Strikes we should be hearing about?
I can talk about Counter-Strike. You don't want me to talk about Counter-Strike.
No.
Tom has a very
Tom doesn't want me to
look
talk
on
about
his face.
Counter-Strike.
No, I'm not a Counter-Strike
Yeah,
man.
I don't think there was anything else across MLS. I admittedly did not watch that much of it this weekend. Portland, Seattle's on right now. That's probably fun.
Yeah, is it called a TIFO? TIFO? What is the little board they put up? Big board that the fans have.
It's a TIFO, Tom.
TIFO? Yeah, I saw the one there. I got it sent to me from a Portland fan.
Portland's are always good.
Yeah,
Portland's
shout
are
out to
always
my
very
friend
good.
Margaret who sent me it, and it's scary, man. It's like this clown, and there's dead fish around. It's not good.
Margaret,
Yeah, Margaret, who's made an appearance on this podcast
multiple times.
multiple times.
Yeah, no, I'm looking across these scores, and the most interesting one to me is Salt Lake put 6 past Colorado
Woof.
in Colorado.
Uh-oh.
So that's ugly. Yeah. My favorite new name for a derby game, the El Tráfico,
Oh yeah, that's a great name.
finished 1-1.
I did watch that game actually because I tried to watch Christian play. He did not do much.
Yep. Yeah, I think we're about out of stuff.
Well, can we just note that I did not feel super, confident in my betting.
Oh, we're noting it. But
Okay.
Our two teams are playing each other. You got
Close this out before Hallett backs out. Close this out before Hallett backs out.
Like, I will gladly take a free 6-pack of beer. That's the thing.
Yeah, I bet. Good luck getting it. You don't live in this state no more, son.
Oh, I'll come find you. I will come find you and collect what you owe me.
I'll do a double or nothing on a Counter-Strike game for it.
Uh-oh.
You just want to keep giving me free beer? Okay.
I've never played Counter-Strike. I don't know if that would go well for me.
Probably wouldn't go well for you. All right, we're about out of stuff and out of time here, so let's wrap it up for the week. As usual, all of our written content and podcast content is on the Zone Coverage Network, Zone Coverage Podcast Network. Tom, do we have anything particularly exciting going on right now across the network?
I would say start a football. Definitely read Sam Ekstrom stuff once a day. This guy has something really good on the Vikings during the week. We are going to, I know that the Twins are not very good, unlike Naylor's Cardinals that are kicking butt, but we will have a lot of stuff on the prospects, or at least the guys who were prospects who are with the team right now, kind of looking at what the future would look like. So yeah, a lot of Vikings kind of winding down Twins, and then we'll be hitting Wild and Wolves pretty hard pretty soon. But yeah, check out the site, subscribe. It's good value, good deal. Support our work.
10-second Wolves thing.
Yes.
Is Jimmy on the team after next season? Yay or nay, Tom? Yay or nay, Tom?
I'm going to go no.
David?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's not a good thing because I don't think that means they trade him. But
I was gonna say I think he leaves for free and it sucks. Like,
yep.
I think
he leaves. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It means that Tibbs is gone too. It's a weird.
Here's my
very
2-second
involved
take. Well, not my 2 second, like my 10-second take on this. I think that if they are in the same position they were in last year at the trade deadline, where they're pretty comfortably in the playoff position. Remember, Jimmy got hurt right around then last year, so they essentially made the run to stay in the playoffs completely without him. I think they should be listening to trade calls for him at the trade deadline. I don't know if Tibbs and Layden will do it, but
no
they
playoff.
should try and get value for him.
Yeah, I agreed, but when's the last time you ever saw a playoff team trade their best player?
Yeah, very rarely.
That never
Maybe
happens.
Cat will be their best player next year.
Yeah.
Oh, their second best player. I mean, that never happens. No playoff team ever trades their second best player.
Yep, but when you get the sense that he's looking elsewhere,
I don't disagree with your logic. It's just not going to happen.
yeah, it just doesn't happen. Yep,
Yeah.
but I think he's gone. We'll see about Tibbs. I don't think Tibbs stays past next year either, but that's only a slightly related issue. But
yeah, I'm to be fair, I'm 50-50. I'm on the fence on this one. It really is how the season goes. But we should wrap this up. This is not what the people listen to. Please check out the site. Follow Naylor. Follow Nick. Follow me.
Listen to the Dane Moore NBA podcast for more Timberwolves stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that, I'm David Naylor. You can find me on Twitter at ProfCedar. You can find what was it? His Majesty, the Prince, Hot Take Nic Hallett at Prince Hallett on Twitter.
Holla.
And Tom Schreier, you can find at T Schreier 3 Zone Coverage. You can find at Zone Coverage MN. This has been the Minnesota Soccer Podcast. We will see you guys next week.
Deuces.